Hey guys, I have some car problems. My starter has stopped. And I used my masculinity to begin to fix it, but I had to put my masculinity on pause because I need the part now. So, while my masculinity is on pause, I'm going to read us an article titled, "Study Claims Men Who Play Video Games Perpetuate Techno-Masculinity." This is by Tony Erakizhanen. A new study published by University of Idaho professor Robin Johnson argues that men who work in video game development, play video games, or who are simply passionate about gaming may in fact be perpetuating techno-masculinity. This word is just so fantastic. It makes me throb in my pants, in my seat. Johnson writes in the new piece, I think it's a paper, Techno-Masculinity and Its Production in Video Games, which is behind a paywall, that after interviewing 20 whole video game developers, he discovered that techno-masculinity, quote unquote, is rampant in the gaming industry, hurting women and LGBTQ people in the process. Well, what is this techno-masculinity, and how is it hurting these people? In an interview with PJ Media Sunday, Johnson described techno-masculinity as an expression of masculinity that is oriented toward the mastery of technology and skilled use of technological tools and systems. Trying to attain mastery and competency in any sort of tool or system is inherently problematic if you're a man, or if you use your masculinity to do that. I'm perpetuating mechano-masculinity by trying to fix my car, apparently. Is that itself problematic? Let's continue. In popular culture, this type of masculinity is often associated with individuals who are highly competent, oh my God, with computers, but typically lacking in social or physical skills, by which he means a bunch of autistic weaklings are expressing their masculinity in something other than social engagement or physical engagement. That itself, I guess it's just because it's masculine people that are doing this, is what is hurtful. Maybe men just need to get out of every industry and just go work in the sewers and just have excreto masculinity. Maybe that's the only acceptable masculinity that's allowed. In his study, Johnson traces the development of techno-masculinity in men from an early age. One man's techno-testicularity allegedly started when, quote, his father took him to his government job and allowed him to play simple computer games, setting this man up for techno-masculinity. While fathers are implicated as the catalyst for most men's techno-masculinity, not all are. Okay, so it's problematic that fathers are teaching their sons to master something so that they can go forth and build something in the world. Maybe it's productivity itself that is the problem. Not masculinity, but competency and mastery and productivity. Maybe those values are what are getting in the way of all these marginalized groups. To continue, although fathers got most of the 20 interviewees into technology and computers at an early age, the father-son relationship is not a requirement, wrote Johnson, conceding that sometimes mothers are responsible. But why is this a problem? Okay, finally, good. If a bunch of geeky men, ouch, decide to create video games for a living, or work at video game stores, what's the problem? Well, in line with the subordination of women thesis popularized by University of Sydney's R.W. Connell, Johnson argues that techno-masculinity hurts women. Gender is socially organized in the West in a hierarchized, binary, differentiating men and women along supposedly natural or biological masculine and feminine traits, said Johnson. That is quite a sentence. I wonder if he said that out loud. The association between technology, masculinity, and what we think of as skilled work is still fundamental to the gendered division of labor, and thus the oppression of women and the gender pay gap, he added, Okay, hold on. The association itself between technology and masculinity and what we think of as skilled work is still fundamental to the gendered division of labor. How? Do women perceive that only men can be skilled and therefore they don't think that they can be skilled? And what about the large amount of women in technology? What about them? Are you saying that somehow they were lucky enough to overcome that stigma, or that women in general are so weak that they will fill up whatever bra you put them in, that society girds them with? They will take that shape. Is that what they're saying? I believe that's kind of like an underhanded slight towards the ability of women to choose their path in life. And I think now more than ever, women are given more and more access to these jobs. To continue, going forward, it's unclear how this can be fixed. Wait, spade. Which one's spade? You fix a boy and you spay a girl? I don't know. Yeah, I think it's fixed, right? Going forward, it's unclear how this can be fixed. Men, it seems, are in a catch-22. How so? Any man who likes video games, plays video games, or develops video games is at risk of perpetuating technomasculinity, which, like all other forms of masculinity, allegedly hurt women by its mere existence. They just came out with it. Masculinity itself just hurts women, just by the very fact of being masculine. If you take gender away from the equation, there is nothing wrong with being able to demonstrate technical mastery, Johnson told PJ Media. What do you mean by that? If you take gender away from the equation? Oh wait, okay, not sex, so not men and women and sex, but any expression that is gendered masculine needs to be flushed from the system. So everybody who's a man needs to either dress up as an automata or as a woman in order to not hurt women's femininity, the gendered femininity. Because gendered femininity is supposedly hurt by masculinity. Gendered expressions of masculinity, by its very existence, hurts expressions of femininity. I don't know. These people are very confused, or they're so smart that they don't know shit anymore. To wrap up, but as a form of masculinity, it tends to exclude women by being seen as legitimate, technically skilled individuals. Because being technically skilled is seen as masculine, you end up with the following associations. Men equals masculine equals technically skilled, while women equal feminine equal not technically skilled. That is a negative consequence. Well, okay. The entire problem with this article is that it is making an association between masculinity as bad, femininity as good. Men as masculine, as technically skilled, all that's bad. Women as needing to be helped in all of these other areas, all these technical skills, need a bunch of societal push to be up there, is inherently good. They're weak. They're victims of men. So it's not perpetuating a dissolution of gender stereotypes. It's reinserting a whole nother binary of good and bad, or bad and good, or bad and good into the equation. So it's not actually solving the problem. It's perpetuating a different problem. Well, speaking of my own mechano-masculinity, I actually have to walk to work today because I'm waiting for the part to come, so I'm going to leave you guys here and now and splice this all together tonight with probably, hopefully, something else I could add to this because it's just kind of a flat little article. But at the end, you get to respond with emojis. You just get to have a gut response to this idiotic article. I wonder who read it. Here, listen to this.
Study claims men who play video games perpetuate technomasculinity.
A new study published by University of Idaho professor Robin Johnson argues that men who work in video game development...
I love that they have robots reading the article to you if you want. It starts out with the masculine voice, but then it goes to Siri voice. Oh, poor technomasculinists. I feel so bad for you. You autistic weaklings who don't have anything better to do, with fathers who taught you to get into something and just hurt women just by your very desire to achieve some sort of goal. Jesus Christ. What are we coming to? Are they going to be happy until everybody is just sucking at a huge nipple? But how is the nipple going to produce any work if there aren't cells in the body producing the work, going out and feeding us grain, turning it into milk? I mean, we need corn. Somebody's got to work the corn before the cow can have an udder, right? It's a whole cycle of life that they're completely unable to see to the end of. Anyways, I gotta take off, walk to work. I'll talk to you guys soon. Ciao. Hey, so I went to work and I came back and then I edited this whole thing down and I wanted to leave it at that. But the question is, where does this form of thinking lead us? What I've been seeing since the election, at least on Twitter, and of course, Twitter is like, it's a random sample, and I'm finding these expressions of opinions through people who are reacting to the expressions of opinions. So I don't know how broadly these opinions are shared, but there are these opinions with multiple thousands of likes or upvotes or whatever you want to call them that call out white women for voting according to, Republican lines, as though white women should not ever, under any circumstances, vote Republican. And there's this weird kind of shaming going on with white women specifically. And so I want to tie that into what I just read with this TechnoMasculinity, where it's just assumed that anybody who is perpetuating the system as it stands is, by their very existence, perpetuating all of the oppression that is going on between the cracks. And the problem is that, well, you have to look at actually where is the actual oppression. You can't just assume that the oppression is always going to be there, that it's always stable, and that it always comes from the dominant group. You can't do that. There's this whole thing about mastery, and there's this whole thing about competency. And furthermore, there's this entire landscape of values and what those values elicit in the world. Certain values will be able to wring from life different results. I'm not saying better or worse. I'm not making any judgments. I'm just saying there's a difference. And if your culture isn't attaining what other cultures are, you don't attack the culture. You examine the values that perpetuate their benefits, not the oppression, but the benefits from certain sorts of systems. To bring it all back to this article, without those autistic weaklings, we would not have computers, we would not have blogs, we wouldn't have all this digital landscape. I just wish that they had just an ounce or a micro ounce of respect for the qualities that gave rise to the tools, to the systems that people employ subconsciously, that people entirely take for granted. That's what I wish. And then furthermore, that they wouldn't just vilify groups based on their external characteristics, but actually do some deep thinking into why people behave in certain ways. Before you demonize, analyze. That's all I want people to do. A little bit more. And, and that's the add-on. That's the postscript. There you go. Good night now. It's fall time. Don't you know that? Yeah. What?